The streaming is going well. I hope that everybody hears me, and most importantly, hears Miss Nastya Stovbir.
Вітаю, шановна публіка, вітаємо наших інтернет-глядачів. Ми дійсно щасливі знаходитися тут, та оскільки це спеціальний евент, а саме фізичне прибуття групи кураторів українського павільйону на Трієнале Мілано.
In English now, because
we're happy to announce that, and the president of Triennale, Stefano Berry, is happy to announce that the Planet Ukrain, the Ukrainian Pavilion at the 23rd Milan Triennale exhibition, is physically arrived in Ukraine. Thanks to this special event that confirms the cultural commitment of solidarity with Ukraine. This symposium is curated by Gianluigi Recuperati and organized under the auspices of the National Agency for Arts and Culture. The meeting actually is part of all the journey, that we made.
I think.
Curators.
Thank you so much, Nastya. Thank you for helping us and being so instrumental and so deeply effective in organizing this trip, the meeting, the symposium you're about to experience from a distance.
Actually, as you have said today, it's like a dream that came true, as we can say so.
It's a dream.
Because the idea was. Idea of Ukrainian Pavilion, we had it on February when we had two symposium in Milano, and then like a week ago we had this idea to come here, and here we are.
Thanks to Stefano Boeri, who immediately had this bold and courageous idea of reject Russian pavilion for the Triennale and welcoming the previously unscheduled Ukrainian pavilion. This happened on February 28, just 4 days after the war broke, so we can't say for once that we've been lazy, and since then a lot has happened, and this is not the right moment to talk about it, but this is the right moment to express how deeply grateful I am to all the people who are here, all the people who help us organizing this trip, and mostly to the people who came and to very bravely from Italy, from Europe, from France, from Germany, from England, to join us on this trip. I think that this is kind of a historical situation, because it's the first cultural symposium happening in Ukraine after the beginning of the Russian invasion, which means that Ukraine is more alive than ever, that the attempt to erase Ukraine has failed miserably, and the attempt to make us all live in fear is failing. And that's exactly the reason why we came here, because we believe that safety is utterly important. Obviously, it's our first concern, but it must not exempt us from doing what is righteous, what we need to do. And being here as a curator of the Ukrainian Pavilion for the Triennale in Milano was simply the righteous thing to do, because I think that you don't earn the merit of doing this because you're maybe talented in doing what you do, or because you fathered two fantastic half Ukrainian, half Italian kids. I think that you earn also your merit by putting your body where suffering is, where life is, where death has been, and when future will unfold. So putting our bodies here and our soul here was very important, and that's why we decided to, also with the help of the fantastic Galina Grigorenko, and I also want to thank the Minister of Culture of Ukraine, Alexander Kachenko, and all the people who really help us. Like it's been a blast. It's been a fantastic achievement. I'm very happy, and I've never been so fearless in my life. I just tell this to people who are watching us from Italy, from France, from Germany, from America, from wherever. I mean, please organize your symposia here. Please organize something here. Please come to Ukraine, even not speaking about Ukrainian culture. Please consider this country as a pod, as a beautiful like a beautiful pitch for ideas and a safe place. Because by putting our bodies here, it will become safe and we will become even more free. Otherwise, the sacrifice of the Ukrainian people it means that the sacrifice of the Ukrainian people is not really touched us. So you need to come here, a tout. Like I want to say, just before introducing our guest, the moment that this idea sparkled is exactly the moment when when we all found out. It was, I mean, for me, the pivotal moment of the whole history, and this whole history is the famous video of President Zelensky saying, a tout. Like, I watched that video like a million times, and I make them watch to my kids, because it was like a sort of poetry in motion. It was life being transcribed in history. And that moment, a tout, that word, here, ici, qui, that word means that we need to be here, and we are here. So let, please, the beautiful Nastia introduce all of our guests, and then we'll begin with our series of free flow.
Yes, so we have together with us artists, art activists, I will say Minister of Culture Alexandra Kachenko, Stefano Boeri, architect, president of Triennale, Francesca Tyson, Bornemisza, chair of Bornemisza Art Contemporary, Galina Grigorenko, head of State Agency of Ukraine in Art and Artistic Education, Vanessa Branson, art activist, Alberto Zantone, interpreter at Studio Urquiola, Stephen William Nevin, music industry consulting, Yulia Vaganova, acting director at Bogdan and Varvara Khanenko Art Museum, Olena Goncharuk, acting director at Alexander Dovzhenko National Film Center, Maria Iserlis, curator at AD, and Olga Balashova, head of board NGO and curator of Wartime Art Archive, and Alexander Vinogradov, independent cultural manager, translator and musician, so founder of Zapravka Initiative for Art Residency Support. So let's start. Yeah. I would like to invite Alexander Tkachenko, the Minister of Culture and Information Policy of Ukraine, who is connected via Zoom. Okay, so I'm happy to introduce you, Stefano Boeri, an architect and the president of Triennale Milano. So we have his video.
Good afternoon to everybody. Well, there will be a Ukrainian pavilion at the forthcoming Triennale Milano International Exhibition, which will be held in Milano from July 15 to December 11, 2022. War will never triumph over dialogue and interaction. And just few days after the Russian aggression, Triennale Milano has decided to withdraw the invitation to Russian government to take part to its international expo, and has invited artists, intellectuals, and scientists from Ukraine and across the world to a platform of dialogue, Planeta Ukrain. We have asked Gianluigi Recuperati and Anastasia Stoiber to curate this platform of dialogue and to help us to organize the first two meetings that were March and April in Milano. Well, as you know, Triennale since 1928 is the only international cultural institution to form part of the BIE, Bureau International des Expositions. And so confirming its commitment to cultural solidarity with the government and the people of Ukraine, Triennale presents today the third symposium of Planeta Ukrain in Kyiv. Organized in partnership with the State Agency for Ukraine for Arts and Art Education, this bridge conference from Kyiv to everywhere else is the first international cultural event organized in Ukraine since the start of the war. And I really thank so much the curators, all of you, and I'm so proud to be part of this amazing event. The aim of this event is to build a bridge of shared planning and responsibility between Italy, Europe and Ukraine, so that the country's participation to the 23rd International Exhibition of Triennale Milano is a tangible opportunity for a radical sharing. I really want to thank with all my heart the curator and all the participants of this important event and reiterate my commitment and that of Italian culture to support the struggle of Ukrainian people and their government against an unjustified, dramatic and unacceptable aggression.
Thank you. Thank you, Stefano, for your strong acting. And now I would like to introduce Francesca Tyson Bornemisza, Chair of Bornemisza Art Contemporary and founding member of Museums for Ukraine.
Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues, thank you so much for this opportunity of addressing you with these few words on this exceptional occasion. From the very onset of the war waged by Russia on Ukraine, it became impossible for most of us to just stand by and wait for things to go for the better. And it was with tremendous emotion that, together with a large group of friends and colleagues from the art community, that we joined forces to support Ukraine's people, cultural heritage and contemporary expression at home and abroad. Our initiative is called Museums for Ukraine, and we are all the more encouraged by President Zelensky's recent statement that we need to be relentless in exerting informational pressure, diplomatic pressure, and cultural pressure. Cultural diplomacy is indeed a very powerful tool, and we intend to use every platform at our disposal to fulfill this mandate. Our first initiative that we took was an impressive fundraising during the Venice Biennale to generate funds for Ukraine's cultural needs. And we raised an astonishing 1.4 million euros to be divided against the appeal of Conscious Foundation, the Maria Primashenko Family Foundation, Ukrainian Emergency Fund, Ukrainian Emergency Art Fund, and Pavilion, 100% Life, the Museums Crisis Center, and finally also Museums for Ukraine. Today, members of our team are in Kiev under the auspices of the Ministry of Culture of Ukraine and our colleagues from the Milan Triennale, whose initiative to create the very first international cultural event since the onset of the war speaks very strongly towards this commitment. I would be with them if I wasn't at home nursing a broken leg, but I wholeheartedly applaud everyone present for their bravery and their commitment. There are too many other initiatives that have already taken place that are too numerous to mention, and others that are just beginning to manifest themselves. These will continue throughout the next few months, years, and I would like to mention in particular an exhibition of Ukrainian avant-garde entitled Avant-Garde Betrayed, curated by Konstantin Akinsha. This is supported by the Minister of Culture and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Spain. And it brings together the largest assemblage of Ukrainian avant-garde ever staged, and will position the legacy that these artists left on the world stage of modernism since the beginning of the 20th century. We are extremely humbled to have this opportunity of presenting such an incredible selection of paintings in our museum, and very much hope that we can count on some of the masterpieces and treasures from the Ukrainian collection to complement this exhibition. Another historical exhibition which puts this new exhibition into perspective is that my father, Baron Thyssen-Bornemisza, he organized an exhibition of his old master paintings in Kiev back in 1984 in his application for cultural diplomacy and his dedication to world peace back in 1984. And I traveled with him at that time, and I promised to be back in the Ukraine as soon as my injuries allow. But one last point I would like to make is that the systematic targeting of cultural monuments and museums, theatres, libraries and churches is indeed a flagrant breach of the Hague Convention, and we condemn in the strongest terms the flagrant abuse of all conventions that protect human rights and cultural rights. I'm with you in spirit, and I'm offering you on behalf of over 100 other museum directors and art practitioners that we stand by you through these dark times, as it is indeed art that reminds us what it is to be human. Thank you so much.
Support and for Museums for Ukraine Foundation for everything you are doing. And now I would like to introduce Alexander Kachenko, who is via Zoom with us. Yes. Alexander Kachenko, Minister of Culture and Information Policy of Ukraine. Good evening, Alexander. Thank you for being here with us. What do you think about the importance of this international visit of curators and cultural activists in Ukraine during the war?
I'm very much encouraged and grateful for Gianluigi, Vanessa, and all others who have visited today Ukraine, because it's the first sign of hope for Ukrainian artists who are based in Ukraine, first of all, that we are for a future ahead for culture initiatives of Europe. And would like to invite all others to follow the example. It's not about brevity, it's about the identity of European culture, because Ukraine is a part of European culture heritage. And despite more than 350 objects of culture heritage were damaged or ruined during this war, we believe that we'll be able altogether to rebuild it and altogether to initiate a new, not new, but old values of European culture within all our territories. So I very much appreciate this initiative and hope that it will continue.
Thank you. I would like to introduce Galina Grigorenko, Head of State's Agency of Ukraine on Arts and Artistic Education.
Thank you, Nastya. As far as I understood, we have a like free floor, so we are free to speak everyone, which is important for everyone. Okay. So I'll start probably from the very beginning, because for me, the partnership with the Triennale began in late February, when we have met with Anastasia and Gianluigi, who invited me to take part in first online symposium on 9th of March. Actually, it was a first online event there in Milano. And it was really important for us, and it's a good sign of solidarity in deep understanding what is going on, what is important, what is evil, and what is good. So thank you for inviting us, first of all, and thank you for developing this program so deep, because it's not only online platform for expression. You know, in Milano, it take place different exhibitions during these several months. There will be theatrical and cinema projects, as well as music and children programs. So I will not announce all of this, because you guys know it's better. But it's really important for Ukrainian art scene to be present in Europe, to be heard, to be visualized, and which is the most important, even more important, is to share our way of life right here, right now. And this visit, as for me, it's not only a sign of your bravery and your solidarity, but also it's a sign of life continuing here in Kiev. Not only in Kiev, you've managed this long trip from Europe to Lviv and then to Kiev. So you have seen a lot of, and tomorrow we will travel across Kiev region to see even worse places which were damaged by Russian aggression. But still, people are living here. We have vibrant scene in art. We have musicians, we have writers who are staying in Kiev and continue to work. So it's important to come here to see them alive, first of all, and to invite people from abroad to make their projects here in Ukraine. Because to my mind, Ukraine is a center, actually, of art living right here, right now. Because art is always responding to what is going on, what is urgent, you know, questions of death and life. And so it's really important to be here to see in your own eyes what is happening here and how people, despite all the circumstances, they are continuing to work. So we are glad that you're here today. We are hoping that this is only the first visit. We will continue, of course, and please give us a platform for cultural expressions, not only in Europe, but bring people of your profession here in Kiev. We have a lot of something to say, to express, and to show you in Ukraine. So thank you very much, and let's hope this is only the first steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Galina. Thank you, and I would like to thank all the agency for all the work and helping to make out all these things real. Thank you. Now I would like to introduce Vanessa Branson, an art activist. And it's really fantastic you're here with us. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And you know, it's extraordinary to find ourselves here. All of this was only planned a few days ago, and suddenly I find myself with a group of rather wonderful people. I have to confess, having the best time I've had in a long time. Unexpectedly joyous, and I mean, we were all completely gobsmacked by this bloody invasion. It was, you know, as it was creeping towards us, and you know, the idea of the war starting. Everybody was saying he can't be doing it, he can't be doing it, and sure enough, it sort of happened. And then, I mean, just the we've all. Without everybody I've spoken to has been wanting to do something to help. I mean, it just all seems so wrong. We're all rabbits in headlights, thinking, how can we help Ukraine in some way? And so when Jean-Luigi sent this WhatsApp through saying, anybody want to come to Ukraine? I just said yes, and here we are. And it's amazed me how, on the one hand, that this country is suffering so much, and on the other hand, the resilience and the grace of the people at every turn is really quite astonishing. And well, for a start, the food has been great, and which has just been the wine's fabulous. There are a lot of young people in the streets. You know, just taking pleasure in life. you know, there are big surprises. You know, we've had a tour today of the museums. There's not a painting on the walls. I mean, they're sort of installations in themselves when you see the impact of what this invasion has done, and all the work's been taken away to safety. So you're walking through these beautiful museums that are completely empty, and it's really quite moving. We were in the Arsenal Museum today, and I hadn't really got a clue what I was going to say, and there was an air raid siren, and we went down into the basement, and we sat there. It's quite focusing when your phone beeps and with a missile sign, and it gave me a chance to write a few things down. And of course, you know, it all made sense 3 hours ago, and now after just a few more conversations, I want to say so much more. But again, I'll reiterate that until you're here, you can't really understand how stimulating it is and how many ideas come up when you're actually here. And one of the things, we had a great meeting with the Minister of Culture earlier on, and one of the things that really strikes me is, obviously, you know, there's a lot to Ukrainian culture that. I mean, Ukrainian culture shouldn't just be responding to the war. I think contemporary culture. I think that there are so many discussions that this trip's going to stimulate, but the next few months are going to stimulate. But one of the things that I would highly recommend is that Ukraine welcomes as many artists here from all over the world to come here, respond to this city, take the message back. You know, the power of artists is as we know, they have this way of looking at the world which is so different to us. And if we can get artists together, with the people here, with the encouragement, with the support from the rest of the world, I think magic is about to happen. And so thank you very much, Johnny Luigi. Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me here. And you know, I don't want to leave now, but onwards anyhow. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to introduce Alberto Zantone, interpret now, at Studio Urquiola, who will introduce some scholarships, some grants here for architects and designers.
Thank you. The theme of this conference, of the symposiums, is the Bridge Conference. I believe a lot in building bridges, not only tangible bridges, but also intangible bridges. Because an intangible bridge cannot be broken. As long as people that are keeping it alive, nobody can destroy it. And so, for me, an important bridge is trying to find a way to help Ukrainian university students. Therefore, for example, the Polytechnic of Milano and his rector, Ferruccio Resta, decided to fund 400,000 euros of scholarship for Ukrainian students. The important thing is that also was possible to obtain to pass some obstacles, like universities which are like with close number, like medicine, will make an exception, so students can start studying and give an exam right now. And also students that cannot prove their curriculum or their exams still going to be able to start immediately, and then their exam can be recognized in Ukraine. At the same time, Polytechnic was organizing a program for professors and researchers. So they're offering a 12 months contract, paid, and therefore also that can start immediately. At the same time, the rector of the Polytechnic of Milano, in his form of president of the Italian rectors, offered to be the first point of contact for also all the other university, so that any student that would like to apply can apply directly to one point of contact and therefore be connected with the best university that have the project for that. I believe also in micro change, also smaller bridges. Like, for instance, I think there's a small initiative, but it's very important, by the Italian television. Rai News is showing on national television every day news in Ukrainian at 3 p.m. It's a small gesture, but I think it's it's an important gesture because that time taken from the air is giving a message that that we care. It's important for the people that we had the community of 250,000 Ukrainians before the war, now even much bigger. So I think it's a very important sign. Another important bridge is a bridge for the future, but I think we have to start building now, is to create a think tank of ideas for the reconstruction. I think it's never too early to, even if this terrible time, it's tough to talk about reconstruction, but it's important to put our minds, the best minds into it. So I would like to put the best architects, urbanists, and experts to give advices and guidelines how to take this tragedy as an ambition to build in a better way, more sustainable, that can be using less energy consuming building, to have more green and more integrated city. So I think this can be an example not only for this urgency of Ukraine, but also to give an example how to come out of an emergency with ambition to be better. So like that, again, one fellow designer said that he wants to change the world. I don't think I can change the world, and I can make a big change, but I think I can use all my life and all the experience of the studio of connection with intelligent, interesting people for the good use. So I would like to put in contact the Italian schools of design, the University of Architecture, the Order of Architects, the Association of Italian Design, with the similar institution in Ukraine, again, to create these bridges that are important for now and for the future. And so, for instance, there are many institutions that are offering to host Ukraine institution by their offices in Italy. So again, I think that micro change is essential. Like during COVID, it was crazy that 2 years ago we thought we saw something of the worst possible things we could happen, and again we say, what can we do? And we were like a convector of ideas, and we put together, we exposed a guy that had an idea, because during COVID in Italy, which was the first place that was attacked, we had a problem to find respiratory valves, because you couldn't find anywhere in the world, and they cost 5,000 euros each. So a guy from Bergamo designed with a 3D printer a valve that could be used. So not only it costed 5 euros instead of 5,000, but could save life. And again, the difference was people, because by law, a doctor could not use it, because as it was not certified, if something happened, it was under his responsibility. But thank you to the pressure, to the media pressure that we created, and to the volunteering of many doctors, it was possible for many doctors to adopt it and take the risk and save life. So I think there's never a stupid idea. There's never, it's always important to try. Anytime you see a space, every time you can apply lateral thinking, and every time you can try to find an impossible solution to an impossible problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alberto, and thank you to all great people that are doing these things and creating this connection and building the bridges. Now I'll introduce you, Stephen William Nevin, music industry consulting, and a great singer.
Yes, well, we'll see. Do I use this? Yes. Мене звати Stephen Nevin. Привіт. I have been learning Russian. I apologize for that. I've been trying to learn Russian for a few years, and I do it on Duolingo. I do a lot on Duolingo, and I launched myself into Ukrainian about 2 or 3 months ago, and I apologize. I get the two languages confused. I will come back to that in a second. I'll tell you what quickly going to do now, because following on from Alberto's rich contributory performance and what he will be doing, I probably won't be doing too much, but I have a passion for this country, which no Zoom call could ever conceivably sum up. 3 days ago, the day I agreed, when Vanessa asked me to come and accompany her she called me as her bodyguard on this trip. Look at me. And then somebody said to me, why don't you just do a Zoom call? And I said, well, how can you do it? Let's have done with a lot of Zoom calls. Let's really get stuck into getting to know people. And blimey O'Reilly, that's an old English expression. I am so glad that I took the plunge and came here, because the last 48 hours, I think we've all touched upon this. It has been an extraordinary adventure. I mean, I love the idea of crossing bridges. I love the idea of going on pilgrimages. Everything, we're all in life as a journey. I think the little bridge, I would say, Alberto's bridge is like the bridge over the Tiber. It leads up to St. Peter's. My bridge is probably a little rickety wooden bridge over a canyon in Peru. But never mind that. I'm gonna plow on. So what I'm going to do is quickly touch upon a bit of history, touch upon language again, just mention a few words about culture. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about music, and then I am then going to try and sing a song called Oi Tam Nahori. All right, and I'll talk about that will conclude my my performance. So without more ado, and of course, if I fumble, I will mention the quite staggering lady on my left who was, we'd spent an hour and a half together in the car yesterday, and I was writing out the words for Oi Tam Nahori, and I thought this is the most exquisite. I love folk music. It was the most powerful song, and I thought I'm talking about it too soon. Let me go quick. I'm going to crack on quick. So, how did I justify my coming here? I have a strong sense of history. I did a history degree quite recently, believe it or not, at the age of, I started at when I was 63 years old. So you're always good to learn stuff. And I spent a lot of time, actually, interesting enough, on Europe, nationalism in Europe, and particularly a big focus, I'm afraid, because I was always trying to speak German, was actually a lot about the German invasion of Poland and then the Soviet Union, and the whole miserable outcome for the Jewish people. So that gave me an interest in history, in Russian history particularly, and I've read a few biographies of the unmentionable one. I think you know who I mean. To try and understand more about Russia and how it was governed. I read on my Kindle. I have a book which talks about. I think I mentioned it to a few people. It's one of those books that was written in 2015 after the invasion of the Crimea by the northern soldiers, and it was just remarkable the way that the people talked about the inevitability of the present government in Moscow doing what it has started doing 3 months ago. There was as if there was nothing left for him to do. This clown to do was having exhausted the country's on its knees, arguably. Corruption is absolutely rampant, as we know across the rest of Europe. So all he was left to do was to satisfy the 70% of Russian people who seemingly support him, was to take it out on the long suffering of Ukraine. You may have heard of that lovely French word longue durée. Sounds rather pretentious, but it's the long-range view of history. And what is so extraordinarily rich about the Ukraine? Of course, it has an amazing longue durée. The fact, of course, that we can trace, if you wish, the state of Russia. Not to Muscovy, but actually to these extraordinary Scandinavians who came down from Scandinavia via Lake Ladoga and worked their way down and came down the Dnieper, and obviously created, if you wish, the kingdom of Kievan Rus. So this is the birthright. And as I mentioned the nationality thing, I spent a lot. I said the nationality, how France became a nation, how Italy became a nation, how Germany became a nation. But of course, nationhood lies at the heart, obviously, of the quandary that your man Putin has. Sorry, I mentioned his name now. That Putin has got, which of course is that his heartland is actually here in the city of Kyiv, and that must be wrenching for a man who obviously was soaked up, who sees himself. He's described himself as the successor to Peter the Great. And obviously, having been a KGB agent in Dresden, he harks back on the wonderful days of the appalling Soviet Union. And I was going to mention the culture. Culture, of course, is the leitmotif of everything that we do today. Today has been a remarkable day at all sorts of levels. Vanessa mentioned the basement experience. Boy, it is strange to go down into a basement, have an air alarm take place, in a building which was created to create armaments for the very purpose. And so it just seems that the irony that there we were hiding from bombs that this Russian tyrant may have, or his predecessors would have made. Right. I'm now just going to come. I'm now rushing through this because, as I always say, time's short. Got to move on. So, but I'm not going to come to the music part, I'm afraid. So this is when it gets really, really worrying. But first, I'm going to mention, of course, again, Ukraine. I mean, it is extraordinary how I think, hopefully, one of the wonderful super people, the lovely lady who was waving that enormous, great duster, the sound recordist. She asked me, what? Xenia, of course. Well, she asked me, "What do people think about what do people think about Ukraine?" And I said to her, "Well, to be honest with you, I don't think it hasn't. Sadly, the country has not really worked its way into the subconscious, I think, of the vast majority of people. Obviously, most people might know where it is. They have no idea, I think, of the enormity of the country." The enormity of the potential, as we saw just coming through this, it has got the most massive potential, which is obviously, it's all good news, please God. If the war is over, then you can get back to making this country an enormously successful place. But I wanted to mention, so obviously in the context of music obviously I want to talk about the entertainer, Mr. Zelensky. I wouldn't call him the Ukrainian version of Boris Johnson. It's about a complete and utter contrast between the two men, as far as I can see. But Zelensky, obviously, again, what is this? It's the phenomenon of this country. The meeting with the minister today, the wonderful gentleman who was there, we had a fantastic, I was just gobsmacked. Relaxed, working on a Sunday, listening, intelligent, making comments. I've been to see many ministers in Britain, and boy, oh boy, the contrast is just ginormous. The difference between the two approaches to culture and the importance of it to the meaning, the myth of the nation, and the importance of it to the people of that country. And I wanted to mention, because I'm an enormous fan, I have to confess, of Eurovision, so obviously I voted massively, well, obviously you can only vote once, for Kalush. But again, what a phenomenal performance that was. Leaving aside that the Brit came second, but even the Brit showed true mercy by saying, thank God they won. They should have won, and they did win. And again, it's just another indicative thing about what is so extraordinary about this country, and which has been completely re-energized me about the passion for the place in the last 48 hours. Now, finally, I'm going to come to the song. All right? If you just bear with me a second, I hope this thing is still... what I'm going to try and do is, if I may, I've plugged into a version of the song, and I'll be listening to it. I'll be listening to it and hopefully singing along to it. Can I take some water? Come on. Here we go. Do I have to keep holding this? Yeah. Okay. Right. They say 3 little verses I'm going to sing, or try and sing. Right. Here we go. Oi tam na hori, oi tam na kruti, oi tam sidila para. Oh,
Oitam sidila para holubiv woni isidili para Lysia Sisi Krelimi Obni Malaysia Sismi Krelimi Obni Malaysia Desvia Strilets Zakruti Rozbiv Rozlučiv paru holubiv Rozbiv rozlučiv paru holubiv. Voilà.
Bravo. Thank you, Stephen. And now I'll introduce you Yulia Vaganova, an acting director at Bogdan and Varvara Khanenko Art Museum, and would like to thank you for this wonderful tour we had today. Yes, really.
Thank you. It touched the song me very much. I was thinking to talk about another things, but it come to my mind that for, I don't know, maybe for all this time, I feel that sometimes I have the emotional armory in myself because it's very difficult to get new emotions go in. It's so tragic around, yes, and it's so many news which all the time shake you, destroy you, make you scared, make you feeling you don't know what to feeling, that you just need the armory, emotional one, not to let something go in. But today really was another day, and I hope that we very soon will let us to put away this armor, I mean this emotional one, because your visit to the museum really is very, very important and incredibly touched me and my colleague who was today with me. For many months, for this time, we were closed for all visitors, and your visit today, it's the biggest support which I feel from the start of the war of Ukraine. And once again, I thank you very much for it, because for us it's very important. And we hope that very soon we could open for you once again, and in another time, with another project, maybe with your projects, maybe with our projects. And please tell everyone, welcome to Ukraine. For us it's really important that you are coming here. Today we were talking with my colleague, with Anastasia, whom you met also, that she doesn't like vitrines in one of the part of the museum. because it was old, because it was done not in proper way, because it's somehow framed you with a certain narrative, not narratives, but with a certain way of showing the collection. And we were talking, and that is difficult maybe to move these vitrines, because yes, they're built and mounted very firm, but we could shake it with the senses. And this is something which we can do in the museum, and which is some challenge which has now all museums in Ukraine. That really we are shaken physically by missiles every day, all of us, in spite where we are, but we really shaked every day with the missiles. And I think that all of us now asked ourselves why we shaked and why these missiles. And I think that this is not only physical, but it's also a question of the senses and question of the values which we had. Maybe the senses and the words which we used to have for senses a little bit old and doesn't and have another meaning. And now we all maybe have to think, and museum actually, this is an institution which have incredible energy for it, to think about the new agreement for humans, for new rules, for new world, for new senses as well. And I think that these visions, this is the visions which could be created by the museums. And the power of museums, actually, this is a slogan of the Museum Day this year. The power of museum actually is in creating this vision, in balancing between future and today, in balancing between countries, but also to finding our way. So once again, thank you very much that you are here and that you visit us. A lot of people asking us for all of the world, what or how do they can help us? And first weeks, it was really difficult for us to tell what do we need, because we were first time in this situation. And when you wake up after the first sounds of the missiles, which were not in Kiev, you're asking yourself, okay, what do I need right now? And this was actually the first 3 weeks or first months of ourselves. What do we need? Do we need packing materials, or do we need, I don't know, generators, or do we need transport, or do we need hands, or do we need crates, or do we need, what do we need? And another friend of mine she had another experience. She was living 2 weeks blocked by Russian troops. She survived, as she is okay, and her family is okay, and I'm very happy for it, really. She repacked her back for 6 times or for 10 times. While she was waiting when the corridor for evacuation will be open, she had time to repacking and rethinking what she will take with herself and for her children when she will have the possibility to leave the house. And I think now we also, after 3 months, almost 3 months, a little bit repack our bags. I think that we understand much more clearly what do we need. Of course, we still need something to save our collection, some materials, but we need also to save people and to save people's lives. And this is what the crucial things which we do need right now. The second thing, I think that we have to think about rebuilding the institution and saving institutions. And this is the next challenge for all of us, because rebuilding means not only physical rebuilding of the building, but also changing the institution and finding the institution which could be efficient and which could really work in your world. And we're all open for this discussion, and we're all now thinking about it. So this is actually two most needs: save the people and give them the possibility to survive and to work, and save the institution which could help us to rebuild our country, and which help not only us but all of you, all of us in the world, to build the new visions of the institutions and new human values, or at least to find the sense of human values. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you. Now, Gianluigi would like to... No, okay. So, Maria Isserlis. Curator at AD Museum.
Thank you so much. I'm actually very touched. Thank you for the song. I think we all were expecting, but not this. This really goes deep into my heart. And first of all, I again want to thank Gianluigi for this incredible opportunity, because today I'm the first time back home in Kiev, where I was born, and it's incredibly touching, the first time since the beginning of this full-scale invasion. And I guess from the day one, you're right, we were growing very quick the emotional armor, which sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't, because as every Ukrainian, we're touched, also our families were touched by what is happening in our country. And first we were just trying to save, support just people and families, friends of friends. And now after several weeks and now months, we're searching for the ways, of course, since we're cultural workers, how we can support the culture of Ukraine, and how we can build the bridges and help, on one hand, people who left Ukraine and who are trying to make their ways in their lives and their art in Europe, but on the other hand, of course, the curators, the museums, the artists who are so courageous to stay here, to continue working here. And for us, it's so important to be today actually in person and to see people with whom I was talking. I mean, here's Olga and here's Ilya. Like, I know them since, Ilya I know since years. We met 2013 or 14, and we've been in touch via Zoom for such a long time, and it's just so great to see them physically in person and to be able to talk to them. And I hope after it we will also continue talking how we can do projects together, on one hand in Europe, I hope in Berlin, I hope you will definitely do a lot in Milano, and but I also think it's so important to bring projects here, and this is what we need to continue talking about, how we can actually be more here, because we experienced today, on one hand, this crazy moment where we realized, okay, we need to put our bodies in a shelter. This is something we only hear about, we talk about, but to experience it on our own bodies is very different moment, and I think it was also an important one for us. But I guess we also now know how it feels, and we know it's okay. People here are dealing with it on a daily basis. They continue living, they continue working, they continue maintaining their own life and culture. And culture is part of our lives. I cannot continue repeating it. It's the same as humanitarian help to support Ukrainian culture. So we need to work for it, we need to fundraise for it. So Museum for Ukraine's initiative is also there to support Ukrainian culture, and we need to see how we build the bridges both ways. So I'm very happy also to meet today museum directors and the director of the Kachenko archive, and we need to find new ways how to also support you here, not only outside of Ukraine. So I will not talk too long. I'm just very, again, thankful to be here, to have this opportunity. Thank you so much for organizing, Galina, and thank you. Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава! Olga Balashova. Yeah. Olga is head of board NGO and curator Wartime Art Archive.
Archive, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you to asking to join you today. And actually, I'm in two roles today because from the one hand, I'm head of MOCA NGO, which the full name is Museum of Contemporary Art NGO. Because in Ukraine, we still don't have Museum of Contemporary Art, and we gather our fantastic community because we have a dream. We have a dream about this institution and somehow to make it present in Ukraine of the future. But from the my second role today is the host, and actually here is very important place we can be today. It's the Naked Room Gallery. And this is the Naked Room which is present Ukrainian Pavilion on Venice Biennale this year, and nobody of owners now in Kiev, so they asked me to be your host today, and it's so I'm so happy to have this opportunity, be your host, and tell you a few words about exhibition. Exhibition we will open next week, but now we prepare it for you, and I will say a few words about this exhibition because it's all of these works were made from 24th since 21st February, and they are a part of our wartime archive I'm creating with my colleagues, and it's a project we started with my colleagues from 21st February because you know, in Ukraine this time we have like kind of our own calculation of time because, for example, I don't know what is the date today actually, but I know that it's 88th day of invasion. Yes, and also this war was started 8 years ago, and we leave it for all of these long 8 years. And actually, you come here, I think, to enrich your knowledge about Ukraine and Ukrainian art, and I'm so grateful. I'm so appreciate you make this journey happen. But I also want you to know that this war has been unfold for the centuries. It's actually like Stephen said that it's have a long roots in our history, and the culture is one of the battlefield when this war is unfolding. So I say also a few words about this wartime archive because, as Yulia said, we live in so huge scale of violence and pain every day because of you understand. But in the same time, we live in so unbelievable scale of love and compassion, and you're also part of this of this other part of our present life. And art is also the thing which is help us feel, help us to know what we feel. Actually, because when you this wartime archive project we started and we gathering it from the social media where artists just post their works, they made for this for this time, because they just can't do can afford not to do this. And somehow I understand that it's so powerful for me, so different examples of art, because they help me to feel what I feel, because we feel so many different images, images of war crimes, images of killed people, sometimes raped people, and it's unbelievable image violence. But when you see in the same newsfeed art, it's like a fresh air. It's like a kind, oh, thank God, yeah, oxygen, I'm alive, I can feel. Sometimes it's not very good feelings, but usually this understanding that I can feel, it's very, very important. So we gathering it, and here is the only first stage, yeah, of this project, because we will fulfill it with different works until this mature law will decline, will stop, and we eventually have will have the opportunity to live in one time with other countries, with other planet, yeah. So maybe after I will show you and say a few words about this artist. Yeah, and thank you very much for this amazing tour, and for coming to Kiev, and for your decision to switch your attention to Ukraine, because I think we have so powerful art and so powerful art scene, and we deserve it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker, Olena Goncharuk, acting director at Alexander Dovzhenko National Film Center, and we thankful for a great visit that we had. Yeah.
It's for Dovzhenko Center, your applause. I appreciate very much your notice, Gianluigi, about Ukraine now is more alive than ever. It's a bit strange, but really we have living through very wide range of different emotions. We feel fear, anger, upset, happiness, and it really makes us feeling alive. I remember the first month of my stay in Kiev after war started. My daughter and girl of my son, they moved to Germany, and I'm very grateful to German and Polish people who welcomed them and shared their houses with my girls. I stayed here, and during this first month and a half, I think I became like a canned food. So all the emotions, they were inside. It was difficult to express something. There were a lot of news, a lot of information that the mind of a civilian can't get in and work with this information. After half a month, I decided to take my daughter back home. She's 13, so she needs family closer. So I moved I traveled first to Lviv and then to Poland. And my first day in Lviv, I was walking from the railway station to the center to my friends who met me there. And I was crying because I felt that I'm alive. I was alive. I was not a canned food at that moment. And your visit here, it's also a sign for us that we are alive, and we can, Ukrainians feel this wide range of emotions, and it not only anger and feeling of being threatened and necessity to protect and fight, but we also can love. We can be amazed, we can make art, we can communicate, and even think of future. Another feeling, thank you Vanessa for reminding of this shelter. It's such a strange thing, but first weeks we were sleeping in the shelter, and in daytime I went to Dovzhenko Center, and these nights it was a period of a high concentration. So in the shelter I could write posts for Facebook, I could write letters for partners. I was really focused at those nights in the shelter. And now sometimes when I feel dispersed, I cover myself with a blanket. It's a kind of small, my own private shelter. And in this situation, I feel more inside. I return to myself. And also, thank you for saying about food, because during war, this many humorous and usual things, they became really. They gave us more sense. The food is more tasty, the sleep is more comfortable. So, and of course, for this opportunity, we are very thankful to our army, because if it were not they, the situation could be quite different. My husband, he's in army now, and husbands of many of us, and friends and fathers, and I feel this. I feel more linked to him now than several months ago. But of course, it's not the reason to say thanks to war. There is no thanks to war, never, and they should not happen. But we have different practices to feel more alive, and art, cinema, literature are one of them. And of course, the feeling of bonding and links, which came to me personally, and for example to Dovzhenko Center, because when in our peaceful life we were more focused on our inner activities. And after war started, we were pushed to communicate more with our international partners, and we got huge support from FIAF. It's a World Film Archives Association. They supported us with their expertise, with advices, and now we are in process of working out tasks in which we can be supported physically or materially. So my conclusions from these 3 months, that there are two directions to which not only Film Archive should move, but also other institutions working with heritage. It's safety and accessibility at the same time. So before war, we were standing at the threshold of reconstruction of our film archive. For Ukraine, it is in quite good conditions. You've seen it. But we would like, and we were dreaming to lift it to world standards. That's why we are consulting all the time with our foreign partners, because in Ukraine we have only 2 institutions who can work with physical film. As far as it now, it became quite a rare kind of media. So it's a trouble, but it also a way of our growth. Also, we are working now on digitizing of the materials or exhibits we have, because the Dovzhenko Center collection, it contains not only from movies and Ukrainian films, but we also have posters, equipment, photos telling us a story of the Ukrainian cinematography, which was never told before. We thought that we had only Soviet period cinematography, but Ukrainian cinema, yes, it was born much more early, and before 30 years of the previous century, Ukrainian cinema was much more linked with the international audience. It was a part of this world cinema movement. Thank you again for giving us this sign of being alive. We have a lot of inner job, and it's very important that we are not alone. We are grateful for your support for culture, and also for support of your governments, for our army. So I think the victory will be soon in our future. Thank you.
For sure. Thank you. And we have Gabriele Abruzzese, our super art, our photo and video, photo and video man. Yeah, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you to you. Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you for this journey makes real. I met this group in Turin through Associazione Barriera and Sergei Kental, and then with Recuperati we decided to come here. He invited me here to make this experience, and because what I think is, when we see just the reality through media, we lose something. We need to come closer to this situation and see all the range of emotion and reality can be possible still in the world. So I'm really grateful to be here and to meet all of you. All of your work was really powerful today to see all this amazing venue completely empty. Was really strong, was amazing. And thank you, all of you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to invite our last speaker, Alexander. Yeah, Alexander Vinogradov, independent cultural manager, translator, musician, co-founder of Zapravka Initiative for Art Residency Support, and ex-head of visual art.
Hello everyone, my name is Les Vinogradov. I'm an independent cultural manager, translator and musician. It is an honor for me to participate in the Bridge Symposium, and I only wish I could be there with you in my native Kiev. My short speech today is about music. I will try to explain the best I can why it's important for musicians around the world to support Ukraine, but not by playing Tchaikovsky, Shostakovich, and other Russian composers. It won't be an overstatement to say that for several centuries, Ukrainian culture has been living in the shadow of Russian culture. First as the Russian Empire and later as the Soviet Union, Russia has exerted its imperial power on Ukraine and treated us as its colony. The cultural colonization of Ukraine was twofold. On the one hand, Russia has been systematically destroying Ukrainian culture and its creators. On the other hand, it sucked out talents from the periphery to metropolitan centers in Moscow and St. Petersburg, thus appropriating Ukrainian culture and labeling it as Russian. For example, Maxim Berezovsky, an essential 18th century composer marketed as the author of the first Russian symphony, was in fact Ukrainian. It is common knowledge in Ukraine, but unfortunately not so in Western Europe, so it's worth mentioning this fact here once again. Russia has been repressing Ukrainian intelligentsia since at least the 19th century, with official bans of the Ukrainian language and persecutions of the Ukrainian cultural and political elites. Later, in Soviet times, Moscow led several waves of devastating repressions, killing and imprisoning thousands of Ukrainian artists, writers, thinkers, and clergy. This happened not only under Stalin, mind you. In fact, repressions against Ukrainian culture continued up until the collapse of the USSR. Even those Ukrainian artists who were not physically repressed by the regime suffered from Moscow's imperialist policies. For example, the only way for a classical composer to make a successful career in the Soviet Union was by moving to Moscow and becoming a de facto Russian composer. Moscow had a monopoly on high cosmopolitan culture, while the periphery, including Ukraine, was only allowed to produce second-rate, provincial, and ethnographic art. That is why Boris Letoshinsky, Ukraine's leading 20th century composer who chose to stay in Kiev and work there his entire life, could never get anywhere close to the success of Sergei Prokofiev or Dmitry Shostakovich, his contemporaries, even though his work was as diverse and his musical language as modern as theirs. Things have not dramatically changed since 1991 for the recognition of Ukrainian culture internationally. Russian Federation inherited not only USSR's oil and gas exports, but also its imperial culture with Tchaikovsky and the Bolshoi. Ukraine could hardly compete with such a rival. That is why when we talk about the acts of solidarity with Ukraine today, we ask all our partners in Europe to support us by providing exposure to Ukrainian voices, which in the case of music institutions means performing Ukrainian composers and inviting Ukrainian musicians. If you wanted to send a message of support for, say, the people of Ireland, probably you wouldn't do that by playing English music. The same is true in this case. Shostakovich doesn't really need any more exposure, but Letoshinsky certainly does. If you don't know Ukrainian music well enough, and this is understandable, there are institutions such as the Ukrainian Institute, Kyiv Contemporary Music Days, or the State Agency of Ukraine on Arts and Artistic Education that will be more than happy to provide more context for you. So my message to cultural institutions around the world is this: discover Ukrainian culture, give a platform to Ukrainian voices, and collaborate with Ukrainian professionals. This is by far the best way to support Ukraine now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I just wanted to add a couple of things, because there are like a few concepts that I forgot to mention before, and not only a concept, there's also a text, a very short text that I would like to read, not written by me, but by a wonderful spirit, who's not only a spirit now, fortunately, but she's still alive, called Lyuba from Kharkiv. And this makes a sense of the reason why I'm here today, because I owe it to Lydia Lieberman, the mother of my children, she's Ukrainian. She's ultimately the reason why I came in touch with all this culture and this cause. And she's been touring Italy. She's an actress in Italy, a movie actress, but basically she's touring Italy in the last few days, in the last few weeks, reading over and over again in various situations this letter from Kharkiv, which I'm going to read now, basically. I also wanted to say that the cause of Ukraine for me, because we spoke about music, the cause of Ukraine for me is also the cause of a Parsifal, in a way. As you know, the Parsifal, the last opera by Wagner, tells the story of a pure fool who is going to redeem the whole world by saving the Graal from the hands of evil Klingsgor, who wants to take it from and destroy it. And by destroying the Graal, he destroyed the possibility of resurrection. So it's a deeply spiritual, let's say Christian spiritual, but also like it's obviously a masterpiece of all time. I think that in a way, if you allow me to think like this, is that the Graal is liberal democracy and the values that we live now, the fact that you can be openly gay, that you can be openly left-wing, that you can even be openly right-wing, but nobody will harass you, nobody will bang on your door, nobody will silence you. So you know who Klingsor is, no need to mention. And I think that the story of Parsifal is interesting because Parsifal is not the predestined person who will redeem the world. It's like a pure fool, someone who is unexpected in a way in the first scenes of the opera. And I think that Ukraine, for most people now, is like Parsifal. It's and for me certainly, obviously, these kind of feelings have come in motion with the deep humanitarian work that I've been developing alongside the cultural work. One of the people that I dealt with in this humanitarian work is here, Ms. Tugovic, and she's like one of the brave Ukrainian people who I try to support here in Ukraine. And I said, okay, you're here with your husband and your child, but maybe you should come to Italy, we will find a way. And she said, no, I will stay here. They have to come to our door to take us away. And I say, but you have a child? No, we will stay here and we will win eventually. So the great example of these people have moved me to be here. Obviously inspired by the fact that my blood has been mixed with the blood of Ukrainian. I mean, if you would see my children, like they look like these people here, and they are beautiful. And I hope that they won't. That when they are adult, like they're 5 and 3. I really hope that they won't have to fight for Ukraine. So I'll just read you this beautiful. It was a post on Facebook actually. It's dedicated to Kharkiv. It's also nice because it's about reconstruction in a way. It says, "Now I love you even more, my Kharkiv. Each one of your houses exploded is a piece of flesh they tore from me. Each fire is a burn on my body. Each Kharkiv citizen killed is a hole in my heart. They want to kill us, my beloved Kharkiv. They want to turn us into slaves. But you and I are tough, right? We will make it. We will survive. We will rebuild you. We will heal all of your wounds. They came here to target your heart, my Kharkiv. They came here to steal your freedom, to take your strength. They have come to take from you what they will never have. Let us squeeze this evil. Let us destroy it. Let us crush it, like with bugs. One day, we will clean all the dead rubbish off your streets, my dear Kharkiv. Thousands of women and men will take buckets and rags and wash your streets of the smell of carrions, with chlorine. And then, with spring water, we will wash it, spring water collected in Sarzin Yar. I'm not leaving. I'm staying here. I'm staying with you. Like you don't leave a friend in trouble and you don't betray your loved ones. I am with you, my city, in sorrow and in joy. Leave, Kharkiv, just leave.
Thank you, and I would like to say thank everyone. Thank you, Albert. Thank you, all the team. Thank you, Naked Room. Thank you, all our audience. And so we will build, we'll continue to build with bridges and say
hi to the people watching.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Slava Ukraini, thank you.
So